Did you know with Dr. Larry is live on WIKB 99.1 FM's Telephone Time, Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Central.
You've waited all week.
Every week, we continue to learn how to achieve a better back and ultimately better health.
Live in the WIKB studios, this is Dr. Larry.
Well, thank you for the flex capacitor, Adam. Good morning again, everybody. Okay, let's get it started. Well, as you know, every show builds on the next. Every week, we continue to learn how to achieve a better back and ultimately better health. Now, in case you missed it, last week we talked about pills. It was an important week to be tuned in because we learned and defined about a pill that caused an underlying ill because, let's face it, side effects happen to people still. So here it is again. It was a cold winter night just a few months ago this year. It was late, so late that it was just around the time that the gas station and grocery store was about to close. Yet there was one business light still on in Crystal Falls. It was my office. I just finished getting the last person in. Humanly, I wanted to go home after I was done. It was already about a 10 or 12-hour day. Yet there was still one patient waiting to possibly see me. I had been debating in my mind all day if I could see this patient or not, because this type of visit is really tough to fit in unless you're Doc Baker and living on Little House on the Prairie times. It was a house call. But earlier in the day, I got a message on my answering machine at the office. An elderly lady, in fact a widow, who lives on her own and without family in the area, called me. She had slipped and fell over the weekend, was in some back pain, and asked if I could just come to her house for an adjustment. So I had to make a decision to go or no. It had been years since I'd seen her. Was it fair to the rest of the elderly folks who make it in for appointments during normal hours? And honestly, I'm human. I can only give out so much, and I have to reset. I got to go home. Got to be with my family. However, for some reason, I just didn't feel comfortable not going, even though it was just for back pain. When I got to her house, a neighbor was sitting there with her who said goodbye, left, and went home. Initially, all appeared normal, but as time went on, some yellow flags started popping up. First, she said she fell in her living room and knocked over her TV stand the previous night. Second, she said her back hurt afterwards. And third, I noticed she was able to talk to me fairly normal, but I caught some unusual glitches in what she was saying, but again, tough to detect because she's elderly, alone, and I hadn't seen her in a while. And as we age, we slow up a bit in certain things, and sometimes it's how we talk. Now, I'll spare you the longer details, but I spent over an hour at her place. I checked out a walker that was donated to her and found it was wobbly, so I tightened up a few loose screws, then had her demonstrate how she uses it. She wasn't too steady with it, but was able to get up on her own and walk around her living room with it for a bit. In addition, I went through a checklist of things, including her spine, of course. It was getting very late at this point, and also I decided to run her through some practical questions like this. Quote, when I leave, show me how you're going to get ready to bed. Second, should you fall again, who are you going to call? Where are their numbers? And show me how you would dial the phone. Again, nothing extraordinarily unusual, but I caught some verbal and nonverbal cues which drove me to this question and this statement. First, I asked if she'd be willing to go to the hospital. Answer, and I quote, I'm not going to no hospital, Dr. Larry. I'm fine. I want to stay in my house. Dare I say, stubborn Finlander. I just did. Second, well, if that's your choice, I can't leave you, but I can't stay here either, so I'm going to have to make it a girls' slumber party and call back your neighbor. So I called the neighbor and asked if she'd be willing to spend the night, and without hesitation, she said yes. I gave the parameters and privately told the neighbor I was concerned with some yellow and now red flags, and if anything should happen, immediately call the ambulance. Which, after I left for the night, the neighbor heard a loud thud coming from the bedroom around 4 a.m., and that's exactly what she did. So what was the problem? How did this all start? Well, it involves a very common prescription medication that she was taking, and many of you might be taking right now, and its overlooked side effect. Also, you're probably assuming there's nothing to worry about because your doctor maybe hasn't explained the possible consequences to you, and that's exactly the approach that this lady's doctor took. And if it not for the house visit and the willing neighbor, it could have cost her her life. So what happened? Why did she have to go to the hospital and eventually be transported to the ICU? How could this all have been prevented, and what was the thud? Well, the thud was Our Lady falling out of bed, hitting the floor. She was disoriented at this point because when I spoke to her last week when she came into my office, she doesn't remember much about the 3 days and barely remembers me being at her house. She was disoriented. Her sodium was at dangerously low levels. And the cause? her water pill. Now, water pills help get rid of water in your body, of course, and they do have a benefit, and they are prescribed fairly frequently. But it can also drop your sodium levels and sometimes to dangerous lows. And here's what happens when your body gets low on sodium. Low sodium is common in older adults, especially those who are hospitalized or living in long-term care facilities. Signs and symptoms of low sodium can include altered personality, lethargy, and confusion. Well, that's generally speaking sometimes after a long day for any of us. Okay.
That's me after TT.
Severe low sodium can cause, or Gorski after burgers. Severe low sodium can cause seizures, coma, and even death. So our local lady was heading that direction. To make matters worse, the first hospital was going to discharge her after they discovered a fracture in her spine from the fall. The neighbor piped up. They decided to keep her a bit longer, check things out a bit further, and found the low sodium and sent her to the ICU. So when I spoke to the patient recently, she let me know that her primary care doctor was aware of the low sodium, but it wasn't a worry. Well, she's going to be having a little pet talk about that because the feisty Finlander is back. And by the way, this is the second near fatal case that I'm aware of in this county involving dangerously low sodium caused from water pills in the last 12 months. So heads up, if you're taking water pills or any diuretic, watch your sodium levels, talk to your doctor, don't let them shrug it off. And here's the final point. If you're dehydrated for any reason, and especially taking water pills, just remember low sodium could cause some serious or even fatal ills. Now, beyond that, in addition to the salt life,
Nice.
yeah, actually,
Nice.
I have the sticker.
I was going to ask.
I have a
that-
sticker.
I was going to ask if that little old lady lived in a shoe.
No, but her house was very cute. Yeah, it was cute. It's like a quaint old lady house.
Quaint.
Yeah, it like kind of smelled like a grandma's house.
Sure.
Like, you know, nostalgic.
And mothballs.
No, but I know an old lady that had mothball smells in her house.
Okay.
and probably more than one. Yes, so you kind of get used to it. It's like nostalgic mothballs. Last week we learned a simple self-test for a rotator cuff tear. It was another chiropractic cool tool you can call my office for a freebie reminder just in case you're in need of a retip or a tip up. And so that was last week. Hi-ya. Now today we'll forget that monologue for a moment and keep remembering those mandatory communication skills all doctors must have, which are inquisitive listening and staying positive. Again, it often means the difference between sick and well. Also, it's the 5th month of the year, so let's keep our wrists in gear. Easy one for you. So today we're going to learn a simple self-test for carpal tunnel. Of course, you, Adam, are calling out right from the broadcast booth while we crank up the tunes and I hit the center stage for the demo. However, before all that, in order to have good health, you don't need a lot of wealth. So let's flex our forebrain and put some knowledge to the game because today we're going to talk about, hit it, bro.
Crystal Chiropractic brings you another segment of Did You Know with Dr. Larry.
Oh, yeah. A while back, I got an emergency call at the office. My front desk gal said it was from a desperate dad who was visiting the area at a camp and was with his son. All was fine the night before, but lo and behold, when they got out of bed in the morning, his son woke up in severe neck pain. In fact, his neck was stuck to his shoulders. My staff got him in right away, and here's where the story begins to sway, because in walks this giant of a kid in every way, weeping with tears streaming down his cheeks. I'm going to guess 6'5", 275 pounds and some change. He was a 19-year-old and played on the offensive or defensive line for Michigan State. I couldn't remember exactly which one. I knew exactly what he had because I see it all the time, which is what we're going to go over right now, so you know what to do. It's called cry neck. No, I'm kidding. It's called rye neck. Torticollis.
Neck.
Yeah. Now, you probably would have strained other muscles trying to figure out what in the world I was talking about. However, it's important for you to know what rye neck, a.k.a. torticollis, is because I just had 3 of these cases come in my office the other week. So for our purposes, we'll just call it cry neck. Why? Because if you ever wake up with this condition, you'll either be on the verge of tears or actually cry, as this big kid was, and like a nurse almost was a couple of weeks ago. And what is it? Well, it is severe cramping of one or more of several neck muscles in the side of your neck. It's always usually the one side, and there's 2 muscles involved. Typically, you go to bed just fine, and you wake up in the morning. Now, how does this happen? Sleeping. Yes, sleeping, kind of. While you're zonked out, your neck gets kinked into one position. The muscle stiffens, then cramps, and you wake up like you went several rounds with Gorski. This is, I just put that in there. I'm proud of myself.
Torticollis.
Okay, torticollis. Yeah. Tortigorski. This is more than just a stiff neck. Seriously, more than a stiff neck. It literally locks and feels like a rock. And any movement can set it off a cascade of fireworks that will bring you to tears for fears.
Really? You dropped into the 80s for that one.
I did.
Nice.
I did.
Nice.
I've seen it bring down the mightiest of men and Wonder Women. Now, what are the top 3 biggest mistakes? There are three mistakes that I see, which you want to hear after the break. But Adam, open up the phone lines. Hey, if you got a painter problem, if you got a question for me, I'm here to help.
If your name is Gorski.
And Gorski, please do call. But in all seriousness, Adam's going to give you the phone number, and if there's anything out there that you need help with, I'm sitting in the booth ready to answer your calls. Painter problem doesn't have to be on the topic of a stiff neck. It don't matter. This would be the time to call. Adam, give him the phone number. We'll take a quick break, come right back, and take any phone calls, finish up the segment.
Dr. Larry will be back in a moment. Break's over. Time to get cracking once again with Dr. Larry.
Coming to a theater near you, Dr. Larry. Everybody wants to rule the world. We were talking about it. Well, we were talking about Tears for Fears. You said Tears for Fears. You threw it in there, and I was like, I couldn't think of one song that Tears for Fears does. And I was like, shit. There's Everybody Wants to Rule the World,
Bingo.
which was Dennis Miller's theme song for his
Shout, let it all out.
for his talk show.
Yep.
And then shout, let it all out.
Yep.
These are the things.
Beautiful. So if you're just tuning in, we are talking about wry neck, a.k.a. cry neck. What is it? Severe cramping of one or more several neck muscles in the side of your neck. Typically, you go to bed just fine. You wake up, it hits in the morning. And if you heard the intro, I'll tie you into it. Had a big fella, played D-line for Big Ten college, and he was in horrible pain, emergency call, neck stuck to the shoulders, tears streaming down the face. It happens. But I owe you the 3 biggest mistakes, which I'll get over in just a second. But let's open up the phone lines.
Telephone time. You're on the air. Do you got a question for Dr. Larry?
Yes, I do.
Morning.
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 Hit it.
Oh, I have a question. I have some issues with my neck,
Okay.
and it's developed like last January. I've had a lot of scans, MRIs, and such. When I put my eyes up, they almost hurt, and I get really dizzy, and it's developed, I think, vertigo. Is there... Can a pinched nerve in the neck cause that stuff and pain in your ears?
It can. Anything on the scans or tests that popped up that would be, I don't care if it's incidental. A lot of times they'll say something's normal, but they'll say, but this showed
Right.
up. Anything show up that was incidental that, or was everything 100% normal?
They said everything was normal, but there's it's weird. Since last July, it's in the ears. It's above and below the ear.
Okay.
It's pain, and then it radiates to the temple, and I have vertigo. And I kind of mentioned that if my eyes go up, they kind of walk around.
Gotcha. Did you get checked out by a neurologist or no?
Yes, I did, and they said they didn't see anything peculiar.
Okay.
But then I heard what you were talking about. It's very interesting because that's what I have.
Yep.
It's in the side of the neck. It's behind the ear.
I gotcha.
And
Any
it's horrible.
Any accidents, injuries, traumas, stuff I need to know in the last 5 years?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, it's been beyond 5. I've had some neck issues. It's degenerative neck. If I came to you and you took the x-rays, you would see it. But...
Yeah. So basically a pretty rough-looking neck on an x-ray, kind of crusted
Right.
up. Yeah. All right. Have you actually seen your own x-rays and or they just kind of described it to you?
In the past, I've seen some x-rays, and one doctor suggested that I go to the neurologist and all these ear, nose, throats, and they see nothing. But I said, it's definitely there or something.
Yep. I'm coming up with an answer for you here in 2 seconds. Hang on. A couple more questions, okay? Sit tight with me. Is that good?
Sure.
All right.
Sure, yeah.
Is the when you tilt your head backwards, can you set it off almost repeatedly every single time?
There's pressure behind the middle of the skull area.
Okay.
And more on the left side.
Yep.
Down is fine. Right is very tight. Left is very tight, and right is okay.
Got it.
But both ears have the same pain right above the ear and below and behind, and then it goes to the temple. And it's always headaches. I've never had many headaches in my life.
Yep.
No migraines.
Yep, but consistently when you tilt your head back, and you lift it up, you can reproduce those symptoms you just described to me. Correct? It's not like it's sporadic or intermittent. If you tilt your head back, that's what happens, right?
It's not bad. I don't get dizzy. It's just a little bit of pressure behind the neck.
Okay, and
no dizziness per se.
Yep, and when does the dizziness kick in?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
When does the dizziness or vertigo kick in? When does that start?
It's random. Throughout the day, I'm in construction, but it's random, and sometimes I fall into walls. It's crazy.
Okay, I got you. All right, so here's the deal. Vertigo, dizziness, and what you're describing, it falls into a couple different categories, okay? There's the first one, which, generally speaking, gets the most attention, which is the crystals of the rocks inside the ear, right? So basically,
right.
You know, I'm sure you Googled it. Somebody talked to you about it.
Yeah.
So the deal is you don't have that one, okay? Totally different set of symptoms, completely different tangent, and you don't fit that category at all. So that's off the list. So now we're drilling things down a bit, okay? If assuming all of the scans and tests are accurate, all right? Now, the reason why I'm saying assuming is because I just bumped into a case where patient said all scans and tests were normal. 2 years later, guy's left arm is shrinking down to nothing, and he says they just say everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I burned up my fax machine, got all the records, and voila, there what it is in a scan or a test from 2 years ago, right buried in there, right in the readout, exactly what the guy's problem was. All right. So for the sake of argument and for the sake of clarity at this point in time, I'm gonna kind of forego all that. Not gonna have you pull out all your scans and tests and read them to me, but I'm gonna assume they're okay. All right. So the deal is that you most likely have at the base of the skull, where you're talking about, and from your whole health history there, the spine and the muscle together, both of them united to work against you. And what's happening is it's causing the symptoms that you're having. It's the spine and the muscle at the base of the skull. Now, here's the thing, the medulla oblongata, okay? So quick anatomy lesson. At that level, the medulla oblongata sticks down a little bit into that level there, and there is a nerve called a cranial nerve number 8. It controls your sense of balance, okay? So here's the deal.
Right.
You from your life history, developed a chronic condition that set its foot at the base of your skull, caused tightening in your neck muscles excessively, compounded with the nasty spine that you got, and now what it's doing is it's causing a whirlwind of symptoms, including probably tugging on that 8th cranial nerves. Now, I'm focused on that one because there's only 12 nerves that are in the skull called the cranial nerves, and they're all very important. They're highly specialized. So the deal is that the fix, or how to get you out of it, assuming if I'm correct or not, but this is I'm pretty sure I'm right on the right line with this one, is you have to do very, very careful, methodical neck, but it's not just doing neck stretches. You've got to get the muscle released in the back of the head first, right at the skull, and then from there you got to get the spine moving a little bit better. And once you get that all accomplished, the symptoms start to go away. Now, how do I know this? I've done it before. Had a guy come in 2 years ago. He was falling to the left side. He'd slam into the wall, couldn't play pickleball anymore. He was in Texas. He had been to a physical therapist, chiropractor, got checked out by everybody, and he's like, Dr. Larry, I got this vertigo, I got this neck pain, stiffness, your symptoms, right? And so I said, all right, I'll examine it. Let me see what's going on. Long and short of it is that within 2 weeks, he was all better. It was the muscle in the back of the skull pulling on the spine, pulling on the 8th cranial nerve that was causing him to fall. I just saw him coincidentally because he brought in a relative of his, and he says, "You remember that vertigo from 2 years ago?" I go, "I do." He goes, "Man, it still hasn't come back yet." So now that's the hopeful case. I think based on what you told me, is you're a little bit closer as far as a diagnosis goes, and hopefully a correction. So here's where I would start, or what you should do. I would start right away with just putting 5 minutes of warm compresses, which are going to tie in perfectly to my segment today. Thank you. Good job. It was almost like on cue. Yeah. So high five for you. But anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to start with 5-minute warm compresses on the back of the head and neck by the skull, not longer than 5 because we want to swell things up. And then you're going to slowly start tilting your head forward and backward, just starting to get some range of motion. And you're just going to repeat down and up, tilting the head forward and backward, warm compresses once or twice a day. When you get home from work, you're going to have to start that. You're going to work at that for a couple of weeks. Yours sounds more chronic and nastier, so that's why I'm not saying you're going to be fixed in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Once you start to loosen up the neck, then you're going to have to start doing other ranges of motion to kind of restore some of the function back to the upper portion of the neck. That's where you need to start, okay?
Right.
On the flip side of it, any questions so far?
No, I understand. I'm more than ready to come up by.
Yeah, I got you. I know. I don't know where you live, but what I'm trying to do is give.
I'm in Phelps. I'm not far.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's not that. Okay, that's not bad. So, and the other thing too is, you can give me a holler at the office, and I can take a look at it and see. It's one of those things I believe based on your symptoms, history, experience, and the anatomy, physiology, I think this is what you got. And the cause of it is exactly those muscles and the spine and the cranial nerve I'm talking about, and that's why you're having a whole fit right now. But the other option is I could take a peek at it, call me at the office. But I'd tell you, if you were at my office right now, I'd be telling you, okay, tonight start with warm compresses, moist heat on the back of the neck, get the back of the neck start to soften up. Start doing that every single day until you come see me. Okay?
Moist heat.
Moist heat, humid heat, not dry heat. Doesn't work. Which, again, you're tying into my segment right now. I'm about ready to get into the 3 biggest mistakes. But otherwise, start that for a week. I'm going to be out. I'll be in the office next week, and then I'll be out of town the following week. Which, by the way, Adam, I'll be here next Thursday, and then and then I'll be off for a week. So maybe if you start doing that for the next 2 weeks, 14 days, just moist heat, back of the head. Then when I get back in, we can take a peek at it and go from there.
Sure. Yeah, I say I'm a contractor, so my head's always moving, and I know it's stiff.
Yep.
That's a big one. And can you pull in records, to help you do better? Big MRIs, CAT? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
I'm definitely going to give you a call.
Yeah, call my office, 3215-875-3215, and then give your name, phone number, date of birth, all that jazz, and then tell them the hospitals you've been to, and we'll start pulling records. Okay?
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for the call, by the way. Good one.
Yep, bye.
Have a good day. All right. So,
Torticollis.
Torticollis. Yeah. So, and by the way, too, so one of the symptoms of this, too, see, now I get into this good segment. Gorski took up all of our time this morning.
Took up all of our time. Gorski and your burgers.
Yeah. And, but ultimately, the deal is one of the symptoms, too, and one of the patients that just had this torticollis that came in a couple of weeks ago, her eye started to droop, almost like a Bell's palsy. Yeah. So it does tight muscles in the back of the neck when they go haywire and they go nuts. They do crazy things to motor control muscles in the face, dizziness like you just heard, and it's not just stretching out the neck, it's more than that. So the 3 biggest mistakes, I got to get to this. Biggest mistake number 1, stretching it right away. Now you probably just said, we just told them to stretch it. It's not what I'm talking about. I'll get to that in a second. Second biggest mistake, icing it. Makes it worse, hardens up the muscle. Third biggest mistake, wait it out. Like I said, I just treated 3 of these in the last couple of weeks, and one of which the gal almost went to the emergency department. However, they typically don't do much at the ED for this, and you basically get a few hours release from the medications. How do you cure it? Well, you just heard it. Moist heat compress, apply it on the back of the neck, 5 minutes, maybe tops at the most, and then you can start adding some minutes as time goes on, as it loosens up. Try basic neck movements, not stretches, movements. I'm being a lawyer to you right now. I'm lawyering you up right now. I said movements, not stretches.
I said movements.
Yes.
I don't know why you started using that voice. It was like you're from the Bronx.
Yes, exactly. So move, don't stretch. Slight head tilts, back and forward, left and right. Treat it properly. The cramp muscles will start to soften up in a short period of time, and that's AKA wry neck, dry neck, cry neck, torticollis. Now, in my office, sometimes I got to get in there and I got to start digging away at the muscle and make that muscle release if some of that stuff doesn't work. So then anyway, overall, that is how you treat that. That is some of the symptoms, or are some of the symptoms that happen. Adam, hit the tunes. We'll hit the center stage for the demo. We're going to do an easy one for you too. Simple self-test for carpal tunnel. This is a no-brainer.
Carpal tunnel.
However, I'm going to switch it up on you.
Okay. The wrist tap.
Oh, you knew.
You showed that one to me before.
Oh, okay. Tap the wrist.
Yep. Just basically you flip your hand over.
Palm side up.
Palm side up.
Yep.
And you tap your wrist.
Tap. Yep.
And give a little tappy.
If you get a electric shot, pins, needle, numb tingle, index finger, middle finger, and little thumb, carpal tunnel. Boom. Yep. So that was the carpal tunnel test. I'm sure Gorski's got carpal tunnel from doing all those burger lifts.
Those burger eatings.
Yes. And by the way, before we run out of here,
they said 30,000.
What?
Burgers.
That's how many he's had?
50 years.
I wonder how many calories that is. You can do the math. Easy.
You can do the
math.
math.
Do the math for me. While Adam's doing the math on 30,000 Big Macs, remember to check out drlarryradio.com. your healthcare information online station. It's a research and teaching tool I created specifically for those of you who like to listen and learn from my shows, like you just heard, but want a little more. It's podcasts and posts. You'll be able to listen to my WIKB radio shows anytime, but now in a podcast format. Also, there are posts. I'm doing 3 to 4 posts per week. These are cases that come in I see, and I just had one come in yesterday. She called me this morning. I referred her out to her doctor, and we found out what was going on. So that post will probably be up here coming up soon. This tool is different than just doing Google searches for your symptoms on the internet. With this format, I drive the content. It gives you unfiltered access to specific cases and symptoms that are extremely searchable by the tabs I created. There is a small subscription price, $7.99 per month. I made it affordable for anybody and everybody. I was a broke college kid too. It's a month-to-month plan. You can cancel anytime. drlarryradio.com. Check it out. Subscribe today. Yes.
Love it.
What do you got?
563 calories times 30,000. 16,890,000 calories.
That'll pack on a passel pounds there, Adam.
Packing the pounds. Can't believe it. Oh, and it's out of here.
That is a lot of calories there, Adam.
Crazy.
Oh.
Folks, if you want to get in contact with Dr. Larry, give him a call. 906-875-3215. Hey, by the way, where are you located, Dr. Larry?
Where am I located?
Yeah.
You
Where
can
are you
listen to me
located?
live
Where are
right
you
here.
at? How can they get a hold of you?
You can listen to me live right here every Thursday morning, learn how to achieve a better back and better health. Or if you're ready to become a patient of mine because you're having a pain problem, I'm in Crystal Falls and here to help. The number is 906-875-3215. Have a good day, Adam. See you next week, everybody.
Did You Know with Dr. Larry is live on WIKB 99.1 FM's Telephone Time. Tune in to WIKB from 9 a.m. to noon, Monday through Saturday for the popular Buy-Sell Trade program. And hear Dr. Larry live Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Central.